Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Hannah Burr. Good evening, Hannah. How are you?
Doing very well, and how are you?
Doing well. We are going to be talking about technically the first time we've had two shows coming out at one time this past week. So lots to get there. We've got the premiere of The Mandalorian Season 3 and then Episode 11, Metamorphosis of the Bad Batch. So a lot there to talk about. First and foremost, again, thank you to our patrons that still contribute to us and support the show. We can't thank you enough. Got a couple of you coming up on your anniversaries. So got some stuff planned for you all. So I will be in touch. But yeah, it's huge. Thank you so much. So if you're interested, if you're not already supporting the show, patreon.com/Inside the Force. If you want to go check out our tiers and see some extra content that's on the Patreons. I just put reaction videos of actually these episodes that we're getting ready to talk about. Quick reaction videos from first viewings. I've been able to think about it a little bit more, so we'll expand more. But I'm definitely curious what Hannah's got to say about these two episodes. The only bit of news I got, Hannah, really, the only kind of thing I saw announced really is that the Mandalorian Season 2 is obviously coming to the comics. They did Season 1, so now they're adapting Season 2. 8 issues, one per episode, as like they did Season 1. So that's coming out. I didn't see a release date about when it's starting, but that's coming. Yeah,
Fun stuff.
yeah. And we haven't. I don't know if we will. Probably not. I was thinking Beyond the Saga. We probably won't do because we got the show, right.
And we got other comics we need to get to anyway.
We do have other comics. Yes, you're right. Yeah, I was trying to find. It says a release date will be announced at a later time, so they don't even know when this is coming out. But that's coming out there for you all. So yeah, that's really news-wise. It's kind of slow right now because we got these new shows. There's a lot of press going on right now. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff out there with interviews from the cast and crew of The Mandalorian. You guys can dive into. I will say one interesting thing about that, which I don't know if you heard. It's a little confusing because I don't think there's a clear answer, but apparently there's an interview out there with Favreau.
Okay.
And he was talking about the timeline of these 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, not quoting, but roughly, that the show has taken place over the course of a couple years.
Yes, I did see that somewhere.
Okay. And that basically Grogu was with Luke for almost 2 years.
That's insane.
Now, what do you make of that?
Well, that would explain a couple of things that we see in the beginning of Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1. We see Grogu kind of really has a pretty solid handle on the Force.
True.
So I think that helps explain that.
And he's moving around a little bit easier, I feel like,
Yeah, and so we don't know what else he's been trained in. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but it surprises me. Does that make sense?
It does, but it surprises me. The one thing that clearly looks like it aged for me, two things. One, Navarro
Yes.
has changed. And you can't change that over the course of a few months. So I get that. That looks like a course of a couple of years or 2 or 3 years. Grief Karga looks older. Like he's got grays in his like full gray beards, and he looks like he's aged. Now, Mando, obviously, you can't tell because he's got a helmet all the time, right?
Take the helmet off, Pedro.
Grogu, you can't obviously tell. He looks pretty much the same. So there's no one else really you can, all the other characters like Cara Dune and what was his name, the Ugnaught that died, Quill, right? So, you can't see their aging. So anyway, it was, I'd have to really think about it and take a step back because I then have to start looking at Book of Boba Fett and thinking, wait a minute. So that means that took place over a course of a long time, because when it kind of crosses over with Mandalorian, like I feel like he wasn't away from Din Djarin that long, and then all of a sudden he acquires Grogu again during the Book of Boba Fett. So you're saying there's 2 years in there somewhere that I don't know. I've got to look at that and kind of figure out if it makes sense. Now, of course, I'm pretty sure they thought about it, and I'm sure it makes sense to them. Right. And maybe it's not a full 2 years. Maybe it's like a year and a half, whatever. I don't know. But I think what I think what Favreau was saying was that there has been some time that has passed. Maybe they don't. And actually, you know what? There's a book coming out, right, that called Star Wars Timelines.
Right.
Right? Well, they delayed the release. So I'm just purely guessing, they're fixing the timeline of The Mandalorian. Because this is new information, I feel like.
Yeah, but does that mean that Mando, does that mean that he has been technically exiled for 2 years?
Technically, yes. Right? Like, what has he been doing this whole time?
But it's so important to him.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when you're like very, very much where you're going is when we hear that first conversation in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
When he tells the armorer, I took my helmet off. And she says, you have to go bathe in the waters to be redeemed. I mean, so that means, I guess how long from the end of season 2 till we see that? Is that a long time? Because the Book of Boba Fett is happening in between there, right? So is that a year? Because at that point, Grogu's with Luke, right?
Right.
So yes. So like you're saying, is that 2 years? And then he goes and gets Grogu. Well, eventually visits Grogu and then gets recruited by Boba Fett. I don't know. It's like there's 2 years in there somewhere. And that's what I'm saying. So it took him 2 years to get told that you need to go to the waters. Because I think that's where your head's at, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Or was he told you need to go to the waters?
And then 2 years.
Or maybe he kept it a secret for 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I think it could be, yes. Praying
that no one would address it.
And then why wouldn't he just lie? I mean,
yeah, at that point.
Yeah.
Because at least this is sort of getting into the episode. Yeah. But at least as far as we can tell from the ceremony of them getting their helmet, there's nothing about lying in their oath.
Yeah.
So, but maybe it's because he broke an oath, he has to be honest about it.
Yeah, I'm sure to him it'll probably eat him up inside. But if like you said, if you've gone that long, I don't know. And if you haven't done it since, it's like, come on, you're good. It's not like you. I don't know. It's not like you just did it.
It's not like anyone's going to rat you out.
Yeah, and it's like no one's going to. Yeah, exactly. No one's going to say anything. So the timeline part is really interesting. Like I'm, and me, I'm a huge canon continuity person, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
I really want to make sure I understand how it all kind of lands. Mm-hmm. But I won't probably know. I don't think any of us will know until that book comes out.
Right.
That really flushes out. Okay, this happened in 5 ABY, or it would actually be like 9 ABY if they go by Battle Yavin. So, 9 AB, then is season 2 like 10 ABY, and then season 3 is like 11 AB. It's like, has it been now? I think I was talking to Cody about this today a little bit, and I think he mentioned he thought he heard him say also in a different interview when he was kind of asked about clarifying it, that you can kind of think about it in the sense of when the show was released. Like the time between shows is almost the time between the seasons.
Oh.
Which that would kind of make sense, to be honest.
Okay.
Right? Maybe?
Maybe.
I have to look at like the release dates and all this stuff, but I know November 2019 is when the show started. Mm-hmm. Now, we didn't get the second season until, it was almost a year later, right?
Right. Which makes sense.
So that means they were hanging out with each other for a year to when you saw them show up on that planet in season 2 premiere before they went to Tatooine, right? And then, that means that came out in 2020, and then Book of Boba Fett was the end of 2021.
Right.
So maybe a year, yeah. So 2020 is 2023 now.
Yeah.
So has it been 2? So is it 2 years since the season 2 premiere? I guess it has been. Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. So maybe that makes sense.
I don't know.
I don't know, but
I don't know.
I don't either.
It hurts my head.
I that's part of me. Yeah. Part of me goes back to, and I think I've said this. I probably haven't said this in a while on the show, but with all this content now, I wish. And if I was on the story group at the very beginning, I would have done this. I would have said everything we put out there, we start with what year it takes place in. Like,
yes,
you almost put at the bottom, like just when it first starts, just by 25 BBY or 16 ABY, whatever. Just put it somewhere in a time in the timeline. Mm-hmm. Now you can make the argument. I get it that sometimes you have to change it, and kind of move stuff around because something might come out that contradicts it. I don't know, but okay. So season 1 was debuted in 2019, November 2019.
Okay.
Okay. Season 2 came out October of 2020.
Okay.
So that wasn't quite a year. So it was,
Yeah.
And season 1 ended in December 27th.
Okay.
So October. So 10 months.
10
So
months.
I can buy that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
10 months between season 1 and season 2. So season 2 ended in December of 2020. Mm-hmm. Season 3 now just debuted just over 2 years from season 2. So truly, has he been without Grogu for 2 years? That kind of makes sense if it follows along the lines of what Favreau's saying.
I guess. I don't know. I think we have to wait for the timeline to come out because that just raises more questions to me.
What? Because what are you doing in those 2 years?
What are you doing? What are those? What are you doing?
That is
As
crazy.
I said, that just unleashes more questions. Okay. My brain hurts.
And then we haven't even talked about the show yet. But I wanted to make sure Book of Boba Fett debuted. Just want to get it right. The following, so the Book of Boba Fett debuted December of 2021.
Okay.
So that came out a year after, the end of season 2. So we are, and at that point during that, I mean, he gets Grogu back then. Mm-hmm. So you could make the argument, I guess, he only was without him for a year.
Right.
Which means, though, then they've been together for over a year.
Right.
Now. And like you said, then there's a year between the same conversation that we had with the armor.
Right, which makes no sense.
No sense. Because what are you doing this whole year?
Yeah.
So I don't want to hurt your head too much.
Already hurt. Damage has already been done, man.
So anyway, I didn't even have that in my notes, but I remembered Favreau said that. So again, you're right. That opens up a whole conversation that I think would be way too long in the show. That is, we'll have to probably do maybe, we could do a Beyond the Saga on the timeline book at some point and just kind of
would be fun.
Skim through it a little bit and just kind of.
Oh no, you could do like a 3-part series on that.
Yes, you definitely could. I'm so excited about that because that's like right up my alley.
That would be fun. Maybe I can come over to your place and you and I can just sit down with it and just.
Absolutely. Yes. Just dive into it and just be like,
yes.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know when that took place. And I wonder if how detailed really is it going to be like every episode of the Clone Wars, or is it going to say when it took place? It's
I mean,
every book apparently is supposed to be in there. Every novel is supposed to be in there.
How heavy is the book?
Oh, it looks pretty thick. So, and apparently that's the thing too, is how up to date is it now?
Oh, right.
All this stuff coming out now is not going to be in it.
Well, maybe it is, because maybe that's part of this whole celebration thing is they already have the future timeline set out. Mm. So they at least know, okay, for the next X many years, we don't have to update this.
True.
But all I got to say is God bless the person who put all of this in order.
Yeah, I think there was 4 of them that contributed. So
only 4?
I know. I think there's only 4. As far as I know, I think there's 4 authors on it. But okay, so anyway, well, like I said, I think we'll get more into that. I think as it goes, and maybe there'll be more clarity as Favreau gets more interviews on that. But let's kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about the Bad Batch first.
Okay.
Or do you want to talk about Mandalorian first?
No. We've been kind of already on the topic of Mandalorian.
Yeah, let's stay with Mandalorian then.
Okay.
Okay, so we're still talking Mandalorian. Premiere season 3 just happened. The Apostate is the title. Mm-hmm. Chapter 17 of the show. Mm-hmm. I'll let you go first. Well, what did you think?
I'm confuzzled.
Confuzzled. Okay, I like that.
Confuzzled. I'm
nice.
So confused. I'm so confused. Just because we get another scene of them saying, "Well, you're in exile. You need to do this." Okay, I'm gonna go do this. Doop 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 doop. And then and then you see this town just kind of completely renovated, which is awesome, and I love to see that. And it shows, life moving on in the galaxy post Return of the Jedi, really, really cool stuff. But then it's like, doop doop doop. Oh, we want this droid. Okay, well, you need to fix it. Oh, you need this piece. Okay, that's what he's gonna do. He's now gonna go off and find this piece, and then he goes to Bo-Katan. So, And then also the first scene really confused me too, because I'm like, oh, is this his helmet ceremony? And then the like crocodile thing attacked, and we're like, what the heck is going on? What's the purpose of this? And then all of a sudden he comes zoom right in to save the day, and we were like, oh wait, what? I will say though, despite of all that confusion, I absolutely loved the sky fight, the space fight.
Yes.
Loved it.
Through the asteroids and all that.
That was amazing. I'm like, okay, now we're in Star Wars. Now we're in Mandalorian. And that's all I got to say. What about you?
Well, there's a lot of things. Because, of course, when I'm watching it the first time, because I've watched it twice now. When I'm watching it the first time, of course, I'm just excited, right? This is like, oh, wow, Mandalorian's back. This is a great show. And I watched it first all the way through, and I'm like, okay. My first thought was this was a complete setup episode.
Oh, yeah.
It was like we saw all the characters that had been advertised, Grief, Armor, Paz Vizsla, Bo-Katan. I mean, we saw them all. And it set up what we already kind of knew what was going to happen since the last season. Or the Book of Boba Fett, basically.
Right.
So I, after that, I'm like, okay, so that gets me ready for the second episode. But then when I rewatched it, and I started thinking again. I'm like, okay, first off, even though the crocodile scene was cool, it felt exactly like the crate dragon scene.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Like, there was nothing really new about it.
That's exactly what Zach said while we were watching, and he's like, is this the crate dragon all over again?
It pretty much was. Like, I would have been more impressed if we had not seen the crate dragon.
Mm-hmm. Which, the crate dragon was amazing.
Crate dragon was amazing, and it was lore because you knew what a crate dragon was. We don't even know what this thing is. It looks like a crocodile.
Yes.
So that kind of, second viewing, I'm like, oh man, I want to get excited about and it's weird because usually they give us new things all the time. Mm-hmm. I get it's a new creature, but even like them shooting it and then it's like the same thing. Anyway, so I felt like that was the same thing. And then like you said, we get into the exact conversation that they had in Book of Boba Fett. Except this time, there was a little difference, right?
Yes.
She says this time that this destroyed. You can't go.
Like, that also greatly confused me because I was like, didn't you just encourage him to go to Mandalore?
Yes, like that was your only option.
And now you're saying it's destroyed?
Yeah, like you can't go. And then he had to bring something to prove that maybe he could. So it's like, okay, I guess you can do that now, whatever. And then, when you first turn on the episode and they do the series recap.
Yeah.
The first thing you see is IG-11 blow. And I'm like, why are we seeing that? And then later on, he goes to Navarro, and for some reason, he says, I need him.
Why him? Why not any other droid?
I don't know. I don't get it. And there's no, like, okay, I'm going to go get this chip. There's no resolution at like about that. He's okay. So just wait to put them together until I come back. But then, like you said, instead of the chip, he goes to Bo-Katan to find out exactly where the waters are. So now he knows where it is. Does he need the droid still? I don't know. I'm telling you, after second viewing, I'm like, I've got all these questions, and I'm like, I guess it's a good setup episode, but I don't know if it was that great of a premiere, to be honest.
No.
Because if you think about it, the end of season 1 premiere, what did we get? We got Grogu.
Yes.
Like, holy wow. The end of season 2 premiere, what did we get? We got Boba Fett. We didn't get anything at the end of this episode.
We just got a very ominous goodbye.
That's right. Yeah. For those listening on the podcast, it's like trying to look around like, what the heck's going on?
Did I miss something?
Yeah, exactly. So I wanna love the show. I do love this show. Like I do. But I think the other 2 premieres were way better than this. Way better. Hands down.
I almost wonder if you just took sections out. Now, once again, like, we don't know what the future episodes have in store with regards to IG.
Right.
We don't. But what if this episode, what if that scene on the beach, that ceremony, was Mando's ceremony?
Well,
And then you cut from the kid to Mando. And he's in the ship traveling to Navarro with Grogu.
Yeah, totally.
Like, what if you just did that? I feel like that would have cleared up a lot of confusion.
Yes.
And then you could have avoided the whole sea crate dragon. Mm-hmm. Sea crocodile, crid dragon, I don't know. You could have avoided that altogether.
Yes.
I don't know.
Or you could have had him, instead of coming and having the same conversation, like, you could have had him come and actually say, look, I need help. Will you come with me? Or will you send people with me to see if we can, help me redeem myself, maybe even help us see if Mandalore can even be saved or whatever. I mean, it's like, have a different reason than the same reason you had before.
Absolutely. Let her say, why have you returned?
Exactly.
Why did you return? And then he's like, I need help, or I need guidance, or point me in the right direction, or,
Absolutely.
Or, screw you, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, pick.
Yes. Let's do something. Let's do something new with this conversation. And
yes.
Because it is good to know that there's now a big group of Mandalorians again. Because it felt like before it was only the Armor and Paz Vizsla left. Right. Like, where were all these people? So it's good to see that they're still there, and apparently they're still recruiting, what do they call them? Not younglings.
No, they're not. They're Child of the Watch?
He is a child of the Watch, but they're called, what was he called? Foundling.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's good that they're still finding, recruits and stuff like that. So, but I felt like, I just felt like they were catering to people that had not seen the Book of Boba Fett. They were kind of catching you up, which I just think is.
Go ahead, sorry.
Move. I just think it was a bad move.
Well, you don't need it. Disney already does that in the beginning of every episode.
Correct. Yeah, it's fun. It's funny because in this recap, I don't think they even showed anything about like Grogu and Luke and all that stuff, right? I don't think they did.
I don't think they did.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it now, but I mean, they show a shot of Bo-Katan. They showed IG, and they show him taking his helmet off. So it's all the things that they, and then the armor saying you got to go. You're not a Mandalorian anymore. How can I atone? You got to go to the waters and get redeemed. So, like you just said, this whole episode was this recap.
Yep. Or at least the first part of the episode was this recap.
Yeah.
as I said, I'm confuzzled.
Confuzzled. Yeah, that's a good one. Because according to this, they still are. They do still expect you to watch Book of Boba Fett to know how Grogu and Mando got reunited.
Right. Like there's still that expectation there. So maybe there's something we missed.
I don't
Maybe
think
we
so.
both need to watch it one more time. And maybe there's a throwaway line that was like, we told you the planet, like, because Armor did talk about how the planet is completely destroyed.
Yes.
Was there at any point in Book of Boba Fett or in this episode where it was mentioned after the conversation of their first conversation about redemption? Was there any mention about the planet being poisoned and therefore that's why she changed her stance on it?
I do need to rewatch that because I had the same question. I don't recall ever knowing that the planet was uninhabitable.
Right. Or at least if we knew it, it was either before the mention of redemption or not at all. Or this episode.
Right.
So
I feel like this was the first time I've heard that it was poisoned.
yes, I feel like that too.
Yeah. Like I felt like it was just wiped out and they had to leave because it was just everything was just destroyed.
Right.
Because they kept calling it a purge, that the Empire purged the planet, which they just wiped everything out, meaning I didn't know that it meant it was unlivable.
Right.
So, yeah, so maybe
Because
that's...
didn't they mention that there could be other people on the planet of Mandalore still inhabiting it? Didn't they mention that? Or am I getting that confused with something else?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember that either. Not saying that it didn't happen. I just don't remember
Right.
them. Because because I think during the Book of Boba Fett is when they saw the flashbacks of the bombers, right?
Right.
Destroying the planet.
I think so.
So the night, they call it the Night of the Thousand Tears. But I don't know if I don't know if they know if anybody's still living there. I don't, Bo-Katan obviously wants to go back there, but because that was the whole thing. I felt like she wanted the Darksaber so she can go back and rule on Mandalore again.
Right.
Right?
And now she's like, you can't do it. I'm so confused.
Did our talk just made it more confusing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. It's like the more I think about it, the more I'm puzzled.
Yeah. No, I'm a little puzzled too. Of course, you got your little. I'm assuming that's Babu Frick, right? That's in there.
I thought it was Babu. I even look, I'm like, is that the same? Is that Babu?
Yeah, I think he's one of them.
That's hilarious.
I couldn't really tell which one. Maybe the one that was speaking. I'm assuming that was him.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I don't know. And to be honest, Grogu was kind of a side character,
Yeah.
right?
He as I said, Mando's the Disney princess. Grogu is his animal companion.
That's true. That looks to be it. So, I mean, has your confidence wavered at all in this season at all, or do you,
Yes.
really?
So
You think
far, like for a good season, you need a strong first episode, a strong opener, and like you said, this was a setting upper. This was not an opener. So already, it's like the formula's broken. So what's going to happen? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
What about you?
I'm confident there's going to be. I'm confident there's going to be some surprises. Like I think, Favreau and Filoni, they got something up their sleeve.
Right.
I just don't. I don't know if right now, I don't know how this is better than season 2. like
I would
season
agree
2
with that.
with Ahsoka and Luke, and even the scene, the episodes with Gideon and those Dark Troopers and whatnot. So it's like that was pretty awesome. Boba Fett coming back. It's like, I mean, that was so. You have a level of excitement that comes into the season, sure. It had to be pretty dang big.
Yeah.
So I like it. I'm sure I'll love this season, but I'm gonna probably limit my expectations right now a little bit.
Agreed.
Okay, so that is episode 1 of season 3 of Mandalorian. Let's shift over to the Bad Batch, which of course is coming out every Wednesday still for 5 more weeks, 4 more weeks. We got a double finale coming, but this was episode 11 called Metamorphosis, and I felt like both of us were a little critical of the show last couple weeks.
Little critical.
Okay, a lot critical. Has your criticism changed for this week?
So you know how last week we talked about how we were more excited and we thought we were going to like Mandalorian season 3 episode 1 better than this episode?
Yeah.
I liked Bad Batch more. Like, kind of by a long shot, I liked it more. I mean, like, this is the Bad Batch that we needed. This is the Bad Batch that we are craving. There are consequences. There is action. We actually see the Bad Batch. We see how they're being impacted by outside forces. I mean, between this episode 3 and the 2 Senate episodes, like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
No, I'm with you. I watched The Mandalorian first.
I did too.
Right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, yeah, that was good. And I had all the thoughts we just talked about. And then I came home for lunch that day and threw Bad Batch on. I was like, man, I should have watched that first.
Agreed.
I was pumped. Yeah, this, the last couple of weeks, I think we've both talked about how, there's so many questions about our team and especially Omega that just hasn't been addressed. And they were questions lingering ever since the end of last season with the cloning process and all the clones getting destroyed, and then now the transition from getting rid of the clones into stormtroopers. And you still have this facility that we saw last season, and you're like, okay, where is that thing at? Boom, here we are, right at the first of this episode. It's like, finally, 11 episodes in, you're starting to tell me what's going on at this facility, what's the purpose of this facility, what does it have to do with our team? Okay, now you're raising the stakes. And that's all I've ever expected from this season, is raise the stakes. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think you did that when you had Crosshair and you had Cody questioning what was going on. You had it when the Senate was pushing for this transition, and Rampart hiding the fact that he destroyed an entire civilization, basically. So, but still, it's weird because even in episode 3 and then even in the Senate episodes, like, our team technically wasn't really involved, right? But now they're involved. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I think this is where, you get people out there, I feel like, that are saying, I get it. You can like those other episodes. You can kind of dive in and say, well, they're character building episodes.
Right.
our team is facing like the loss of Echo, so this is how they do. I get it. But you can still do all that with plots that are more meaningful. And this had a meaningful plot.
Absolutely. I mean, I almost wonder if you started off the season with the Crosshair Cody episode.
You definitely could have.
You could have started off with that, and then you could have gone to the Senate episodes.
Yeah.
That kind of slowly gets our team back introduced. And then what you could do after that is, because it is important to set up the fact that this team is fed up with Sid. Because Sid was introduced in season 2. We need to see them fed up with her. So what you could have done, and I think it's important to still see Jedi involved in case Omega is Force sensitive. I still believe she is. I think actually she's probably an experiment of Palpatine when he was doing cloning.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Like, especially in this last episode when they started talking about, I know what Palpatine's been trying to do. I know what his whole plan is behind this. It made me go, oh, is Omega a clone of Palpatine?
Wow. Now that is interesting. Okay.
Okay, so to keep in mind with that, if she is Force sensitive, then you still need her to connect with Gungi. You still need that. So maybe what you do is the last 2 episodes with them being stranded, you combine that with the Gungi episode.
Oh, right.
Like you kind of, so that way it's not completely ripped off of Clone Wars. It's something a little different, but you still have that interaction.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
And then you go into this episode. And in those 2 episodes, they're also still trying to also deal with the loss of Echo.
Yep.
You have the loss of Echo be the center point of that first episode, and the center point of the second part of the second episode is Gungi. Bada bing, bada boom.
So you're still saying that would be what? That would be 6 episodes?
Yep, 6 episodes.
6 episodes. So 5 are kind of throwaway episodes in a sense.
I don't even, like, in all honesty, I don't really remember a lot of what happened in the other episodes.
Well, you had the first 2 episodes, the 2 premiere episodes were the ones that are happening on Serrano, where they go after the Dooku's bounty, which again, they weren't really, that wasn't really important.
I actually kind of forgot that they went to...
Yeah. Honestly, I just remembered. That's why so those were 2 episodes. Then you had the tech one, the racing one. That was 3 episodes. And then it was the 2 one was the War of the Worlds machine that comes out of the planet.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then I don't even know what the other one was.
Yeah, the mine one, the one where they had to free the people.
The mine one.
The one where they were the Ipsium.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, that was part of the Stranded episode.
That was part of the Stranded episode.
Oh yeah.
It was the Entombed.
Oh, that was when they went on the treasure hunt?
That was the War of the Worlds kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So you had Faster.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. You had Faster, which was the tech racing one. You had Entombed, which was Clone Conspiracy Truth Crosser. Well, you're basically saying you're taking, so it's basically 4 other ones because you're taking the one Tribe one, the Gungi one, and kind of combining it with the last 2. So yeah, so there's there's 4 basically episodes you could have probably got away with. So, and I'll agree with you. I think, if you could probably cut this down to, 10 episodes that are really solid, meaningful, and probably end up getting rid of, in the end, probably 6 episodes probably that might, because who knows what the, we've got, next week is called The Outpost. After that, it's called Pabu. And then Tipping Point. And then the last 2 episodes of the season, The Summit and Plan 99. So next week's The Outpost. Metamorphosis this past week kind of ended. I mean, it kind of just ended. I don't think there was like a 2-parter. It doesn't feel like it's a 2-parter.
No, well, maybe the whole purpose of this episode to be called Metamorphosis is now we are finally changing the season into what we've been wanting for Bad Batch.
Yeah. That could be it. Yeah.
I hope so. Because this was great. This was such a great episode.
I know, because that's kind of what I'm afraid of, right? When the episode ends with Lama Su getting taken to this facility, right?
Right.
And this director, I guess, of this facility or whatever, he's saying, Lama Su's telling him you need to go after Omega. Kind of ends with them walking away. So you're probably under the impression that, okay, they're going to go after Omega.
Right.
But it's like one of them things where I feel like they'll probably wait a couple episodes.
Yeah, they totally.
Right?
Next, Rekka decides to bet too much on a game of sabacc, and so they need to...
Yeah.
Sorry, but like that's what the pattern's been.
Yeah, I will be. Honestly, I probably will be upset if we don't address this again until like the finales. I
will be not happy.
Yeah, I don't think I think I'll be. That'll be frustrating. Because this is so good.
It was so good.
And honestly, think about it. It felt that way. Like you saw episode 3, which is called the solitary clone. And then all of a sudden you went into like that tech one, the racing one. So it's like such a huge drop off.
Stop teasing us.
True.
Just get us the episode.
I know.
Get us the Bad Batch.
So anyway, I think anything else you wanted to say about any of that? Oh, I thought so. I actually, besides the whole, what we find out about Omega and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I thought having the Zilla Beast on there was actually pretty crazy.
I was like, is this ripped off from Alien?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. I was like, okay, Star Wars, you're starting to, dabble in a little bit of horror. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Mm-hmm. It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, I had heard in the leading up to the season that there was possibility of this Zilla Beast showing back up.
Okay.
And I kind of forgot about it.
So then you got really excited when you saw it.
Well, I didn't know that was a Zilla Beast.
Oh.
Because all I've seen them is the real big ones up in that were in the Clone Wars.
Oh, that's right.
So I didn't know what that was at first. And then all of a sudden when it started growing, I'm like, oh my God, it's a Zilla Beast. You remember there was 2 episodes in the Clone Wars, I think, that this thing got, they end up capturing it and bringing it back to Coruscant, and then it gets freed and starts tearing Coruscant up.
Yeah, well, they even made a mention of it. They said, "Remember the beast that almost destroyed Coruscant?"
That's right. Yep. So that's this thing. Pretty crazy.
And then all those poor villagers.
I know.
Made you hate the Empire even more. You were
yes. I know it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the only other thing I would say is, I swear, if Omega does end up being a Palpatine clone, Is
that where you're going, really?
A lot of people think she's Force sensitive. Why else is she so special? And if the Empire or the Emperor has a plan for stuff, he always has a plan for stuff.
Right.
Maybe.
That is real interesting. Because I do think that what they're talking about in this episode is definitely Palpatine's plan to clone. Like
Yes.
I'm going to start trying to figure out how to clone myself.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the thing is that they, because the cloning isn't going to stop. They made it clear that the cloning isn't going to stop. It's going to morph.
Right.
So I wonder if that's what it really is. If it really is Palpatine saying, "How can I truly clone myself?" Because it would be, well, it wouldn't be this time, but pretty close. We'd be getting the father of Rey.
Right. Gosh, when is that? I knew that. I think that's somewhere.
It's behind the scenes of the original trilogy. We do know that, right?
I think it's like. I think it's like. I want to say it's almost like 10 years before A New Hope.
Right. So, and this takes place,
About 9 years before that.
yeah, like 19 years before New Hope. So it
Correct.
could be that Omega is his very first attempt
Attempt.
at a clone. Because if you think about it, she looks very different. She looks very different from Boba Fett and all the other clones.
Yeah.
Even though she's like, I'm like you guys, I'm also a clone, she doesn't look like them.
That would be a major. That would be major.
That'd be a major
A
bombshell.
bombshell. Huge. Yes. Wow. And give it up to Filoni. He may do something like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody else say that yet. So
So maybe you might be the first. That's good.
I don't know. Don't quote me on that one, but I thought of it while watching it last night. I'm like, wait, his plan is she his clone? Oh. Anyway,
That's great. That's great. Good transition to the end of this episode. Yeah. Love to hear everybody's thoughts. I'm sure we'll get some comments on it. Let me see what comments we got from. Let me see
from our friends.
on. Let's see YouTube. Let's see. Let me get there. I didn't have it pulled up. Sorry. All right. Let's see. From our last episode, of course, our friend Thrawn Addict. It's a great video. Once again, makes sense. Next Star Wars Celebration begins in 2025. If they have a film coming out in December of that year, then at Celebration they could show a lot of the film, like the trailers. I do hope they release a slate of films like Marvel does, but I always take Star Wars movies, TV announcements with a grain of salt because, like Rian Johnson films, Rogue Squadron, Orlando series, they can be canceled or changed. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
I am mostly caught up on Star Wars Bounty Hunters comics, and they do get better as they go on. You get more of Dengar, Bosk, Forlom, and Boba Fett. The main character as Valance is interesting. Part man, part machine, and he gets upgrades as he goes along. If you like the robotic enhancements of Boba Fett, then you might like the parts of this comic series, as you see a lot more of that. Interesting. Good. I've read like the first. I read like the first 4 or 5 issues, so I know who Valance is, but that's all I know about it. Then he goes on to say, Bad Batch episode 10 was more enjoyable than episode 9, but not great. I need more Cody and Crosshair in the rest of the episodes. I agree with you, David. They made a big deal about the Darksaber, and whoever holds it, it can rule Mandalore. So that needs to get resolved. Want to know more about different Mandalorian fractions? Maybe there's fighting between themselves, which you do see a hint of in the Rebels. I also assume there might be more storyline about cloning, since there was a shot of the Doctor on Coruscant. I definitely think there's going to be a lot. I think there's definitely going to be cloning in The Mandalorian too.
Yeah, and I also think that the whole faction fighting, we kind of got that in the dialogue with Bo-Katan. So I think
Yes.
our analogy last week of like, how religion has been split into various different channels. And some of those channels just fight against each other. I feel like that's what happened with the Mandalorians.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, no, good thoughts. Good thoughts.
I also commented on our Dark Knowledge episode about
Ooh.
Darth Grievous. It's called Darth
Yo.
Grievous because it was we talked about Lucas's original thought about the Grievous character being the return of Darth Maul. So he says, great video. I had no idea about them thinking of using Maul in Grievous's role. That would have been really interesting. Main reason I don't think it would have worked, though, was because of the rule of two, and I don't think Sidious would want Maul as well as Dooku while grooming Anakin as his replacement. But there are ways around that, I guess. If they did have Maul in Episode 3, I wonder how much Clone Wars and Rebels would have changed, as I love Maul's story arcs in both of those. Yeah, it would have definitely been obsolete at that point. I mean, you could have... Clone Wars would have been interesting because you would have just changed how he returned.
Right.
You know, just kind of had him leading up to Episode 3 because we would already seen him in Episode 3, and then you would get the explanation of how he made it there. So I think that would have been okay. You just wouldn't have had him in Rebels at that point, and then ultimately you don't have him leading Crimson Dawn either, which I think has been better.
Yes. Agreed.
So thanks for that, Thrawn Addict. As everybody's welcome to do, please comment anywhere you can.
Please do.
And just again a reminder: all of our shows, all of our YouTube shows are exclusive to YouTube. This is Inside the Force. We're on the podcast feeds as well as YouTube. So if you want to watch me and Hannah, you can go to YouTube and do that. Yeah. And then, of course, patreon.com. You'll get some extra exclusive video there that you can't find on YouTube. So lots of content coming from us, and we'll continue to do what we can. And we really, really appreciate all the support. New episodes, of course. Hannah and I got to do some more Beyond the Sagas, and then council sessions, Dark Knowledge, things like that are all there. All right, Hannah. Well, again, next week, 2 episodes. Bad Batch and an episode 2 of The Mandalorian. So we'll be here talking about that. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. It's exciting, but now I'm like, I don't know if I want to have high expectations for either next week.
I know.
What are you going to do?
I will just, I probably, like you said, I probably just won't be as high excited. I'll just enjoy watching it and see what happens. So, all right. Thanks, Hannah, as usual.
Thank you, as usual.
Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Go watch some Star Wars. Check us out on YouTube. And see you next week. May the Force be with you.